So first of all, you need to understand the Terraform workflow. You guys able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In it, it allows you to initialize your local folder to copy all the required plugins, to initialize all the required files or plugins or connections when you are running in it. That you can see if you go to your git bash. If you do a, if you go to particular folder where you have your code, say simply C2, you will see a .terraform folder you can find out by just looking at the D in the start if you do ls-l. So this .terraform folder contains all the plugins required to connect to the particular cloud. This I have shown you before. So like that, it will contain. So if I go to AWS, it will say there is a plugin, there is a provider plugin that is installed in this particular folder. On your Windows, it will be something similar, but it is not the same. This allows you to, when you run in it, this gets created. This allows you to do further steps like plan and apply. Validate is local again. Validate will validate your code for the syntax. Then you go to do a plan that will have a realistic idea what it is going to create. It is just going to give a initial idea what it is going to create. Then you do apply. The resources gets applied to the AWS cloud, and it creates a state file. This apply will create resources in AWS cloud. And just put A. It will create resources in AWS cloud, create a state file, and when you run destroy, it refers to the state file. It removes all the resources. Apply creates all the resources. Okay, is
When
it
you
clear?
do the destroy, will the state file still be there or it will get also removed?
That's a good question. I say state file. You, what is your thought on that? What is it going to do when you do a destroy?
I guess it the file should must should be there, but only the contents which is there in that state file gets removed or what.
Yeah, it will make empty. That means it will not have any information about any of the resources. It is mostly like an empty file right now after you do a destroy. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. See, I can probably show you that if I have already removed everything. See, you can see this. It is like an empty file. There is nothing inside. There is no information about resources. It is just only the Terraform version. Clear? Satish? Ranjit?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Shankar. Yes, yes.
So then we talk about the different blocks. The provider block that I told you already, which will be called when you do a Terraform init. So this will be called when you run a Terraform init. So just make sure the provider block is not there. The Terraform init will not run. Okay. Terraform init requires your provider block to be properly defined with the access key and secret key inside. It can be protected inside the provider block, or it can be available from your AWS CLI. Ranjit, this is what your question, right? So AWS
Yes.
CLI, when you run AWS configure, it creates your home directory .aws folder. Underneath, it will create a config and credentials file. These two files are reference for Terraform as well as for your AWS S3 LS commands or AWS describe instances command. It is a single point of contact for AWS CLI as well as Terraform. for your Terraform provider block also. Access key and secret key will be referenced through your .aws folder in your home directory, config and credentials file.
Shankar, here we are actually again defined this access key from the variable block, right?
No, here we are actually calling it like this. It is not the
Okay.
right way to do it. I mean, I just given an example. If you look at the code, say for example, the code which we have written, are we providing access key, secret key? No, right?
Okay.
There is no access key, secret key. If you go to variables.tf also, here there is no variables.tf, only one file. It is only main.tf. There is no other tf files. Say if I put ls star.tf, only main.tf is available. If I go to this one, I will see multiple files. In the variables.tf here also, I don't have access key, secret key. Clear?
So then, in that case, how we talk to this AWS from Terraform?
See, I have the credentials file here. I have the config file. So in my case, I'll be using profile cloud term. I have a cloud term profile.
Okay,
Profile.
okay, okay. Got it, got it.
So
So
if I,
so similarly, we can have our own profiles in this config and credential file and call the same on the
yeah,
provider block.
yeah. If it is a default, if it is in the default, you don't need to mention it in the profile. You
Provider. Okay.
just provide it. So if I run a Terraform init, right, it will go and check whether that particular credentials are usable. For example, if I make some changes in the credentials, like this. See, Terraform init, it is using the existing ones. If I do a Terraform plan, it will fail. It would say that it is failing to connect to the particular cloud. So can you see this?
Yes, yes, yes.
It is retrieving caller identity failed, get caller identity failed. That is a command that it runs, STS command. So if you look at this one, right, Terraform init also reusing previous version of this one. That is why it was passing through. It has
Oh,
no problem at all. If I remove the .terraform,
Terraform file. Okay. Then it will start from the scratch and it will throw error.
yeah, it might simply create all the necessary plugins. It might not throw error, but this have not gone through. Let's see. Because when you do a Terraform init, it does not contact the remote cloud. Only when
Oh,
you do a Terraform plan, it contacts. I'll also verify whether my understanding is correct. Here also it is using previous. Okay, I'll have to remove all of that. R minus RF dot terraform and dot terraform dot log dot HCL. I should remove both. Let's see what happens. So it is not contacting the cloud. It is just installing the HashiCorp AWS version plugin. It is also installing whatever other modules required. AWS module, TLS module, local module. In this case, it will take at least minimum 2 to 3 minutes because it has to fetch everything get it installed. So we'll have to wait. Okay, it is much faster. So Terraform init does not give you any output, any problem. Validate, let's see. Does validate gives the problem? Validate also should not give problem because it is just going to validate locally. See, it is validating locally. When you do a Terraform plan, it is trying to connect to the AWS cloud and trying to check whether that particular information is creatable. So I'll quickly make it change in the credentials file. Whatever I added, the extra thing. If I do a Terraform plan, say it is able to go through. Plan 5 to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. There are only three things that can be done: add, change, and destroy. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now if I do a Terraform apply, it will create the resources. So before that, I'll show you the Terraform state file. Terraform state file, it has nothing. I'm doing a Terraform apply dash dash auto approve. This will create one EC2 instance in the cloud in my account. Okay, there are two instances running, which the other one I have not removed it. That is why it is running. My Terraform EC2. My simple EC2 is the one which is getting initialized. So you can see that 35.173.220.92, right? The same IP address, you can see it here. 37.173.220.92. Okay, now I'll show you the Terraform TF state file. Can you see that this information is added? Everything is added. You can also see the IP address 37.173. 35. So the public IP is already present in the local in your Terraform TF state file. So when you run Terraform destroy, it refers to the TF state file and removes all the resources. See, whatever ID that it is showing, VPC, everything is referred only through the Terraform TF state file. Destroying ID 89D, that also you can see. The instance ID is this one. Now I'm going back to the Terraform.
So after destroying, if you go back to that instance, you won't see that instance. My simple EC2 will not be there, right? Should not.
Yeah, I just did a refresh. So what is it showing? Shutting down. You can see the instance status shutting down. If you go to instances, say my simple EC2 is terminated. Clear?
Yes, yes.
So coming back to the architecture, whatever information that you create, the .tf file, right? .tf file. .tf file is something you create on your local machine or your GitLab repository, and then you run Terraform apply. Run the Terraform provider, it creates the necessary plugin to create a connection to the AWS cloud. When you run Terraform plan, it connects to this cloud, make sure it is able to connect, and gives you all the information. When you do a Terraform apply, it reads all the Terraform state files, creates resources in AWS cloud, and puts all the information into the Terraform state file. Then when you do a destroy, it'll read all the information from Terraform state file and it goes to AWS cloud and removes all the resources. When you do apply, it creates all the resources. Okay, clear?
Yeah. Shankar, like what will this validate will do? Sorry, can you please repeat it? Validate alone.
It's just a syntax validation.
Okay, only the files validation. Okay.
Okay. So Shankar, one doubt here.
Yeah.
So somewhere I heard that we can call or the save the file in any name, right? Not be in main or in first or whatever .tf file. So
Yeah.
when it comes to apply, how the Terraform knows which one need to run or which one need to execute?
Yeah. See, whenever it reads provider, it'll make sure that what provider it is going to connect, whether it has connection details or not.
Again the provider we are actually, say for example, I say it is second.tf. Okay, and I'm giving the provider block as in the second.tf file.
Say
So
for
when
it takes this only explains, right, the main.tf. Say if I move this main.tf to test.tf.
okay, yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether it is main.tf or test.tf. It only reads only the .tf files.
Yeah, that is correct. But then how the Terraform knows which one I should read, whether it should be test.tf or if I have a number of TF files,
Correct,
how the
exactly.
Terraform knows which
Terraform,
one to call first and which one need to call the further one.
okay. So Terraform reads the provider block first. No matter how many files you have, even if you have hundreds of files, Terraform reads the provider.tf provider block. So instead of telling .tf file, we can say that it reads the provider block.
So in that case, we can just say that when it calls this Terraform init,
Yeah,
not init, the plan, right?
correct.
When it calls the Terraform plan, it will go through all the TF files and see where the provider blocks comes and then read it.
Exactly. That's what it does. I mean, as a software, it has to read all the .tf files and find out where is this provider block. See, for example, say if I put this provider block somewhere in the bottom. There is no problem with respect to this one, where I am putting the provider block. If I do a Terraform init, it is already initialized. Terraform validate, it also has no problem. Terraform plan, it is not going to complain that your provider block is somewhere in the bottom. It reads all the files. That is how it is programmed. All the .tf files will be read and it will understand if there is a provider block or not. Let's say I'll just simply say my underscore AWS. Okay, this is not at all valid one. What is it saying? the provider block itself is incorrect. Terraform init itself says you are not able to even move forward. There is something wrong with the provider block. Say, for example, we'll remove the provider block. If you remove the provider block also, it will automatically say the same thing. Say, instead of provider, I'll say my underscore provider. So it will automatically say provider block is not present. This is unsupported block type. It says my underscore provider. This is itself is not correct one, but I'll just remove it. Okay, it is not looking for the provider block. Terraform plan validate also at the same time. It will not look for the provider block. Terraform plan will definitely look for the provider block. What is it saying? Invalid provider configuration.
Valid.
So it is not finding any explicit configuration for provider block. I am just checking out this file from my repository. Now if I do a Terraform plan, it will work. Okay, I need to do a Terraform init because it is not initialized. Or maybe, okay, I have a invalid token ID, correct. So I have to have the provider block, the profile block. Okay, it was because of I don't have default profile configured to connect. I have only the custom profile, that is Cloud Term profile. Okay.
Okay, now another question, Shankar. So I have this .tf file where I have given provider one block. I have test2.tf file, and there also, if I provide the, if I write the provider block, which one will it take or how it works? Will it allow to have multiple
No,
provider blocks?
you cannot have multiple provider blocks. It has to be one block. Say, for example, we'll test that.
No. In single file, one provider file block.
Yeah, it's okay.
Another file.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It is okay. I'll remove it. It doesn't actually matter because for Terraform, it is a single file because all the .tf files it will read. Say, for example, test.txt. I'll put a test.txt and put the same thing. It will not read anything from .txt. If I put test.tf, then it will read. It will say it's a duplicate provider configuration.
Oh, got it.
So provider cannot be more than one. Resource can be more than one. Any other block can be more than one.
Yes, got it.
Okay. So any other questions? Satish?
No, sir. I can follow.
Okay. So only thing that you need to understand is how the code is written. For that also we had a very clear session how each code is written. For example, I'll give you very quick example. Say main.tf. Writing a simple block is easy, right? AWS subnet. This one is easy. But how do you call a previously defined value? Say, for example, AWS key pair deployer. That's a name. Where are we using this? For example, I'll have to give a proper this thing for you. So here, key name. I'll go for number. Key name on line number 61. I'm saying AWS underscore key pair dot deployer dot key name, which is nothing but there is a resource called AWS underscore key pair is created. There is a attribute deployer, and then there is an attribute called key name. If you look for up, so resource AWS key pair dot notation, the particular attribute dot particular another attribute which is having my underscore key. So this resource is being referred in line number 61. Line number 28, 29, 30 is referred in line number 61. Resource, this resource, AWS underscore key pair dot deployer dot key name. If I go to line number 61, so you can see that AWS key pair, AWS underscore key pair dot deployer dot key name is your actual key that will be copied into your AWS EC2 instance. For example, if you go to a particular instance, you will see a key file, key pair assigned at launch. In this, it does not show anything. Probably the key pair has been removed. So I'll just create this one quick. So this one, is it clear? Cat deploy.sh. Satish?
Yes, sir.
So basically, we are running all the sequence in a single file. Instead of running one by one, waiting for the command to complete, we are just running the deploy.sh. If I run a deploy.sh, you will see that the instance is created. I will also want to show you the key file is associated. So you will see a new key file created here. So it is creating key pair.
My key.
My key is created, right? So if to your instance also, you will see that that key is associated.
Okay.
See, you can see that the key is associated. How it is getting associated? Based on the code that you have written in the main.tf. You say that attach this key, whatever is created in line number 28. Whatever key created in line number 28, that key you are referring to the line number 61. So that instance will have this key. That is how you get the key here.
Okay.
Okay, it is here now. So you can see the key which is assigned to this. Okay. So this we'll have to see in the next class, where how we will do a automated pipeline for creating resources in AWS cloud. Will not run anything from our local git bash. Will not run anything from local git bash. Instead, we'll run everything from the GitLab. From GitLab, we'll be running the pipeline. That pipeline will create resources in cloud. Whenever you do a git push, to GitLab, that will trigger the pipeline. That will create the resource, modify the resource, whatever it is. We will not be running ./deploy.sh. We'll be just only doing a git push. That git push will trigger the pipeline. Hope things are clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
For now, we are doing everything from our local Git bash. We have not done any automation so far. See, we have done automation, that is to create resources, but there is no CI/CD. No CI/CD at this point. Correct?
Yes.
Because we are not automatically triggering the pipeline. We are only manually running the ./deploy.sh, ./run-destroy.sh. Tomorrow what we will do is we'll have more participants and we'll go through the revision of the questions.
Okay, sure.
Okay, I'll stop the recording.